This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everyone. So in our last class, we created our first entity, that is employee entity. We generated the runtime objects. When we generated the runtime objects, we got the DPC and MPC extension classes. And you can see the OData service is ready along with these DPC extension, MPC extension. We also added this OData service to the SAP gateway system, and our OData service is up and running. So if we go to this browser, and if we add this OData service, so this is still here, this is the OData service URL. And if I want to see what is there in the OData service, so you need to write /metadata so that the metadata document will be loaded. Now this is the metadata document of the OData service. In today's class, we are going to implement our first operation, which is query operation. Now, what is the definition of the query operation? Using query operation, you can read all the records, or you can read a subset of records by applying the filters. Okay, so let me write down. You can read all the records or subset of records by applying filters. So this is what is query operation. And what is the corresponding method in the DPC extension class where you write the code for the query operation? Can anybody tell me the method for the query operation to read all the data from the employee table? So what is the method name?
Get entity set.
Get entity set is correct, but that is not perfect answer. So the perfect answer is employee set underscore get entity set. The reason why you should mention employee set underscore get underscore entity set is tomorrow when you create another entity called project, then again you will have the 5 set of methods for the project table. Okay, so that method name will become project set underscore get underscore entity set. That method is used to get all the records from the projects table. Getting my point? So you should always give the name completely, okay, not just get underscore entity set. Get underscore entity set, that is there for multiple tables, okay. So remember, guys, yesterday also I mentioned this point. The 5 set of methods: create entity, delete entity, get entity set, update entity. So these 5 set of methods will be available for each entity, and that entity set name will be prefixed before the method name. So when I ask you what is the method name to query the data, to read all the data from employee table, I intentionally mentioned employee table. So your answer should be employee set underscore get underscore entity set. Tomorrow, when I ask what is the method to read all the data from the project table, you need to say project set underscore get underscore entity set. Getting my point? So that don't forget this prefix. That is also important. Okay, so I need to write the code in this method to read the data from this particular table, right? Now, you should get a doubt, and the doubt is, where is this particular method present? This method is part of this class, right? Where is this class present? this class is present inside your OData project. Where is this OData project? Even this OData project is inside my backend system. Where is the OData project? The OData project is inside my backend system. Now, the doubt you should get is ultimately, even this method employee set underscore get underscore entity set, so it is also part of the backend. The method is part of the backend. When the method is part of the backend, how your UI5 will call this method? How the UI5 will call this query method? Okay. See, I hope you are getting my question. So here we need to call this method employee set underscore get underscore entity set. So this method is part of your OData project. So OData project is part of your SAP backend system. In that case, we already know that SAP UI5 will not talk to the backend. Then how SAP UI5 will call this method? So here SAP has designed this beautifully through the means of the OData service. So remember guys, SAP UI5 will not call this method of the query operation. SAP UI5 will call this OData service. Okay. And this OData service in turn call the corresponding method. Now let us see how can I call this method from the OData service URL. I'm opening a new tab. This is my base OData service URL. Whenever you want to call an appropriate method of a particular table, particular entity. Okay. Now I want to call employee set underscore get underscore entity set. Okay. But we know that these 5 set of methods will be present for every table, right? So here 5. Let's say there is another table, then totally how many methods? 10 methods. Correct? So how this single URL can be differentiated for calling those 10 methods, right? How can a single URL call the get entity set, create entity, update entity, delete entity? There should be some differentiation, correct? So this is uh, basically differentiated through the extra part that we write after this OData service URL, and that is called as URI convention. So let me put this way. So this is your OData service URL. The OData service URL till here it will be common. It will be common. It will not have any difference to call any of these methods. Getting my point? There are 5 methods in front of your eyes, and to call any of these methods, this OData service URL will not change. But what the change is, it will come after your OData service URL. So this extra part that we are going to write is called as URI convention. And this URI convention will differ for each method. For create, it is different. For update, it is different. For delete, it is different. For read, it is different. For query, it is different. Okay. So that is the reason this part which will not change. So this can normally called as the base OData service URL. So this is fixed. And now to call the query operation of this employee set, nothing but employee set underscore get underscore entity set, to call this particular method, you need to simply write slash after the slash. If I take my employee set, you need to copy this from the metadata document only. So copy this entity set name and put it after the slash, and that's all. So now try to hit enter. Now let us see what happens. Now we got a error. Okay, we got a error saying that employee set underscore get entity set method is there, but it is not implemented with the logic. Okay, so you have the method. Yeah, it is saying same. Okay, method is there. From this error, what we need to understand is this URL is calling this method. This is what you need to understand first. This URL, this OData service URL is calling this method. This method is nothing but the query operation method for employee table. Okay, so actually it is giving error saying that boss, I tried calling this method, but you have not written any logic in this method, so there is error. But forget about the error. What you need to understand from this error is this OData service URL is calling the method employee set underscore get underscore entity set. This is what you need to understand. In interviews, people, those who are coming as a full stack developers, so for them, people try to confuse you. People try to understand the conceptual level of understanding by asking these questions. Like, let's say there is a entity called employee, okay, or table called employee. I want to read the data from this table. Now tell me what is the corresponding method and how do you call this method from the OData service URL? Okay, then if you really understand the concept, then immediately uh, from the question, you need to understand that, okay, so employee is the entity and he want to get all the records from this employee table. So the method is employee set underscore get underscore entity set. And to call this method in the OData service URL, I need to write my base OData service URL slash the entity set name. So remember guys, whenever you keep the entity set name, it will call the query operation method, which is nothing but employee set underscore get underscore entity set. Now, the next question that may come into your mind is, Rizwan, if I want to call get entity, then what is the URL? Wait. So let us complete this method. We are going to implement each one of these methods. So don't worry. Okay. All right. So that's how the SAP UI5 will call the various methods by changing only this part. So this changing part, which is in this case this one, so this is called the URI convention and this is called the fixed OData service URL. Okay, so this is base OData service URL and this one, only this one is called the URI convention or URI notation. So anything you can call it as. All right. So now let us go ahead and implement this function. This is in the disabled mode. To make it in a editable mode, I need to click here and then so select this method and click on redefine method. So when you click on redefine method, it will open this method in a editable mode. So you can go and write the logic in this method. Just you can scroll up. So there is some commented code. You just ignore this. We simply remove it. Now read out employee set underscore get underscore entity set is the method, and here I need to write the logic. Now let us see how to write the logic. So what is my aim? I want to read all the data from the employee table. So select star from ZB70 underscore employees. Now this particular statement, select star from ZB70 underscore employees, will read out all the records from my employee table. Okay, fine. Reading all the records from the employee table is very much fine, but these records has to be sent in the reverse direction, correct? So let me open this entity diagram. Okay, so you have written select star from ZB70 underscore employees. When you write this select query, you will get all the records. That's all. But these records are still in the backend layer. These records are still in the backend layer when you write this select star from the table. What I want is I want these records to be passed to the front end. So writing just select star from this particular table will not return these records to the front end. Then how can I return these records to the front end? So this is by keeping the results, by keeping whatever the records, all the records that you got as a result of this query, you need to keep these records in this in a parameter of this method. So this parameter is called as returning data parameter. What is this parameter called as? Returning data parameter. And the name of this parameter is et underscore entity set. So let me first complete the code into table et underscore entity set. Now what is et underscore entity set? Et stands for exporting table. Et stands for exporting table. And what is the data type of this parameter? The data
Rizwan,
type
sorry to
of this,
interrupt.
yeah,
I have a question. Where from this table came ET underscore entity set you created last day?
no. Let me complete.
Okay,
So
thank you.
I'm about to explain it. Yeah.
Okay,
So what
thank
is
you.
this ET underscore entity set? So ET underscore entity set is a method parameter. SAP OData framework will give all these parameters to be used by the developer very conveniently basing on the requirement. Okay, so nobody will create these parameters. Okay, so all these parameters come by default for each and every method to use. Okay, and these parameters slightly differ from one method to other method. Okay, so whatever, so these parameters are here to help the developer. Remember that. Okay, these parameters are not here to trouble the developer. These parameters are very helpful for the developer, and they reduce the developer's job a lot. So in simple words, I can say, since the parameters are here, 90% of the developer's job is reduced. Okay, so none of these parameters are created by the developer. All these parameters are already exist for each and every method. So this part will be there. This part is called signature. This part is called signature. Okay, signature of the method. Okay. Now, as a part of the signature of the method, this et underscore entity set, which is a exporting table parameter. Now, what is exporting table parameter? It's a table which can export the data from this backend to the front end. That is basically this et underscore entity sets. And that is why the description of this parameter is given as returning data parameter. The description is given as returning data parameter. So what do you mean by returning data parameter? It returns the data to whom? To SAP UI5. Simple. Okay. Now the next question also that should come into your mind is, Rizwan, so here when you write the query select star from this table, you will get two records from the employee table. Now these two records contains how many columns? 10 columns. How many columns that your table is having? 10 columns. Correct? Now when you are keeping this data, a table of records data into a parameter, how the data type will match? For example, let me start with a simple uh, question. I have a value called 6. Now I need to save this in a variable. Now, can anybody tell me what could be the data type of a variable? Let's say I'm saving this in a variable called number. Okay. Now tell me what is the data type in a C language or Java language. So what is the data type I should declare for this variable?
Data type integer.
Integer, correct? Now, next
Yes.
question. For example, let's say I have a variable called height. So let's say the height is some 5.9. Okay. Now tell me what could be the data type in which I need to save this variable. So is it integer,
Float. Float. Float.
float, or double or float? Anything is fine, correct? Or float. So when you are saving some data into a variable, you are thinking about the data type. Why? Because I cannot assign 5.9 to a integer. Why I cannot assign 5.9 to a integer? Because the data type is not matching. This data is a floating point data, and integer can store only the whole numbers, right? The natural numbers, but it cannot hold this decimal values. So my point is, whenever you are keeping some data into a variable, the variable must also should be of the corresponding data type. It should also from the same data type. Then only you should keep the data into that variable, right? So here we are selecting this data, these two records from the employee table, and we are directly saving that into ET entity set. But where are you checking that this particular data type is matching to store these two records of employee? So here, if you see the data type, okay, this typing column is telling about the data type of this ET entity set. So again, here your OData framework has done the job. What it has done, it is saying, boss, I in the MPC class, I created a corresponding data type. You don't worry. You don't worry about the data type. You simply keep your data in the returning data parameter, which is ET underscore entity set. I already created a data type with the matching, exact matching. So you don't worry. So see this, what is this? It is saying, if you go to the MPC or MPC extension class, so this is the class JCL B70 EMP MPC, I created a data type with the name TT underscore employee. So this ET entity set is kind of a variable of type TT underscore employee. What is TT underscore employee? TT stands for table type of employee, means employee table type. Now, obviously, employee table type means you can store multiple records, correct? So, the data that you have selected through this select query and the variable in which you are keeping this data, both are matching. Both are matching. So, you can keep it. What's wrong in that? Nothing. Got it, guys? So, in fact, we never think about this data is matching or not, data type is matching or not, because this is always taken care by the OData framework. It has already taken care. So, we simply keep the data into table ET entity set. That's all. Okay. But I'm just telling you the concept. How can you keep such records into this variable without thinking about the data type? So, this data type is already created by the OData framework. Okay. So if you go to this MPC extension class, you will have TT underscore employee already. I think you might have seen it yesterday. So if not, I will show you. So first let us, we have written the logic. Logic is over. Now let us activate this. So we need to activate each and every method in which we write the logic. So let's click on continue. All right, now check the status of this method. The method is active. Meanwhile, I will show you this TT underscore employee from the MPC extension class. You can also navigate from this class to the, this is DPC extension class. You can also navigate to the MPC extension class by changing the name here and hit enter. Yeah. So this is the MPC extension class. I'm going to the types, and now you can see TT underscore employee. So this is already created. TT underscore employee is the data type, so which is already created. So always remember, guys, if you find it TT, LT, IT, ET, so all these table type parameters means they are all of them are table types, means they can store multiple records in them. That is the meaning. Okay, getting my point? So in ABAP, this is a convention. If you find TT or LT or IT or ET, so if any variable or a parameter is having these names ending with T, that means it's a table type parameter and it can store multiple records in it. Okay, there is a capacity that's just like, a integer can store all the integers, a decimal, a double can store all the double values, decimal values, and a string data type can store all the characters, right? So similarly, this can store all the records of a particular table. And similarly, there is one more convention in ABAP. So in place of this, if you find TS, LS, IS, ES. So if you find instead of the letter T, if you find the letter S, so that means it is structure. TS, stable structure. LS, local structure. IS, uh, that is also structure. ES, exporting structure. So basically anything is a structure. S means structure, and these data types can store one record of the table. So remember this basic funda of ABAP. Okay, so one record of a table, and these data types can store multiple records, of the table. Yeah. Right. Okay. Fine. So now we have implemented the logic in the DPC extension class method. That is the employee set underscore get underscore entity set. One second, I should go to the methods. Yeah. So we have written the logic in this method. So since the logic is already written in this method, now let's go back and hit this URL to see if we get the data of Rahul and Binky. So this is our slash employee set, and let me hit enter. Now we did not get any error because the method is implemented with the logic, and now we are getting this. So this is the first record. Rahul, employee ID 100001, name Rahul, designation developer, and you can see all this data is nothing but Rahul's data that we created in the database table. Now this is Venki's data that we created in the database table. Okay, that means the backend data has came to the front end. Again, the story has not ended. See, this data, the backend data is written. First of all, you have written select query on this table, and this data is this logic is present in the query operation. And again, this method is called by the OData service URL. And now this OData service URL is giving the data of both the employees. This is fine. But actually, these two records should come in our SAP UI5 application, not in this browser. Will you ask the end user, hey, Mr. End user, you copy this URL, you paste this URL in the browser, and you will get the employee data. Will you tell this? No. We need to call this URL, this OData service URL, we need to call it from the SAP UI5 application. Did we call this URL from SAP UI5 application? No, we didn't call this from the SAP UI5 application. We simply called this URL from the browser just to test it whether we are getting the data or not. So in real time, sometimes what happens is there is a fight between front end and back end developers. The back end developer will say, boss, I'm sending you the data. Okay, if it is not coming, that is not my responsibility. I'm sending. Now this front end developer, he did not know where is the problem. The problem can exist in the front end, the problem can exist in the back end. So now what the front end developer should do is, he should hit this URL. Okay, the front end developer should hit this URL to check the data is coming or not. If the data is not coming here, he can blindly say that, boss, the mistake is from the back end, you check it. Okay. Now the other case is, in this URL, data is coming. In this URL, data is coming, but in the SAP UI5 application, in this table, the data is not coming. Then the issue is in the front end. So this is how you need to diagnose where the issue is. Issue is in the front end, issue is in the back end. So this is where, even though you are, I'm talking about the front end developers, even though you are not a back end developer, but still you should be at a position to defend. Getting my point? Because when you go to the project, these kind of fightings will happen. So back end developers will say, no, this is front end issue, and the front end developers will say, no, this is back end issue. I'm not supporting any of them. I'm just telling you the scenario. So there should be a proof where is the issue, and the proof is at the OData service URL level. Okay. So when I started my career, I'm just sharing my experiences. When I started my career, I'm just a front end developer. I'm not a back end developer, to be frank enough. So at that time, people used to fool me, saying that it is front end issue, like that. Then I realized that no, I should become a full stack developer so that nobody will deceive me. Then after that, I learned OData on my own, and later on, I went to a project as a front-end developer only. Okay, even though I know backend, but I went as a front-end developer only. And in that project, uh, when I entered the project, there are so many, multiple backend developers, OData developers, and they simply use it to tell me for every issue, no, this is front-end issue. This is purely front-end issue. So since I know the front-end and back-end, first of all, I use it to check in the OData service URL. This is the first thing I use it to do. Here itself, when the data is not coming, I know that this is the backend issue. Okay, I know that this is the backend issue, and I use it to go to the method. I use it to go to the method. I use it to debug that method and show them that, boss, this is the backend issue. So this line is giving the error. You check it. So if you are in that particular stage, at least you can hit this URL and say that the data is not coming from your OData service itself. So they will be alert. Okay, this issue is from my side. Some front-end developers, they do not know how to check this OData service URL. What they do, they always look at their table. They always look at their table, and they will be thinking in this area. They're always thinking in this area, why the data is not coming, why the data is not coming. Boss, the data has stopped here itself. Okay, from this backend itself, the data is not coming in this entity set. Okay, so the connection is missing here itself. Then even 100 times you check in this table, you will not get the data. Okay, So that is why I said this is a Bible, this is Quran, this is Bhagavad Gita for SAP UI5 Fiori developers. Okay, you must know the content of this metadata document, and you also should know how to test the OData service URLs basing on the requirement. You test it. If the data is not coming, tell to the backend developer, boss, data is not coming from your side. Issue is in your side. If the data is coming here and then it is not coming in your table, so don't ask anything to the backend developer. He's perfectly fine in that. So you need to check your code. Okay. Now the next part is now my backend data is coming to the front end when you hit this particular URL. Now my next steps are how can I call this OData service URL and bring this data into my table, into my SAP UI5 table. This is my SAP UI5 application. Into this table I want. Now, here there are multiple steps. So let me write down how to pull backend data into SAP UI5 application. Okay, step number 1. So this is your SAP Business Application Studio in which your application is there. Okay, so let me open the Business Application Studio. Now this is my Business Application Studio and this is my application, correct? Till now, this Business Application Studio is there in the SAP Cloud Platform, that is SAP BTP, and your OData service is present in your SAP system, SAP Gateway system, which is present in Hyderabad, Ameerpet, which is present in Hyderabad, Ameerpet. Is there any connection between this Business Application Studio, which is present in SAP Business Technology Platform, and the SAP Gateway system that is present in Hyderabad, Ameerpet? No, there is no connection. That means this URL, in this URL, actually this part s4hanaids.com, which is actually your server. This is the domain name of your server, nothing but your server. So your Business Application Studio has no idea. The Business Application Studio has no idea about your Ameerpet server. It has no idea about your Ameerpet server. So that is first thing. So when it does not have any idea about the Ameerpet server, then how it has the idea about the OData service, which is inside this box, which is inside the box. Getting my point? So there is no way to know about your OData service because OData service reside inside the box. You first of all don't know about the server itself. Then forget about the OData service which is inside the server. Okay. So the step number 1 is to make your business technology platform know about the server, about your OData server, which is nothing but gateway server. Let me write it. Gateway server. Now, how your business technology platform, see if business technology platform knows about your server, your business application studio will also know about the server. Don't worry, because both are in the cloud only. Okay, both are in a BTP only. So this is our first step to make our BTP know about our SAP gateway server that is present in Hyderabad, Ameerpet. Now, how can you do this? This is actually in real time done by basis team. This is done by basis team, but in our training, we only need to do. So how to do this? You need to go to cockpit.hana cockpit.hanatrialondemand.com, or simply type hanatrialondemand.com. So let me use cockpit.hanatrialondemand.com. So you need to go here. And click on go to your trial account, and just go to this account, click on this, and click on this at the left hand side there is something called connectivity. Okay, so in the connectivity there is something called destination. Okay, so click on the destination. Now in this destination, the basis team, what they do, they configure our SAP gateway system details. This SAP gateway system details, nothing but our Amirpet server, Hyderabad Amirpet server details, they configure here. So I already configured. What you need to do after today's class is you simply need, I will say download this file. So this is actually the details of our SAP gateway system. So let me just read out for you. So name of our system training, type HTTP. So description also, this one, and URL. So this URL should contain the IP address and port number. Okay. So let me just go here. You already know the IP address. This is the IP address. Okay. And port number. So what is the port number in which our OData service is running? 8034. 8034. And then proxy type internet authentication, basic authentication, and you need to view the username and password. Okay. So what is this username? What is this password? This username and this password are the username and password to log in to this SAP gateway system while connecting. Okay. So you want to connect from SAP Business Application Studio to this SAP gateway system. Why do you want to connect? You want to connect because you need to call the OData service. Our fifth step is there. So what is our fifth step? You need to call the service. So your OData service is present inside the SAP gateway system. So first you need to connect to the SAP gateway system. If you have to come to my to the hall of a house, first of all you need to reach the house. Once you reach the house, you can go to hall, you can go to balcony, you can go to master bedroom. But first you need to reach house. Correct? So that is what we are doing here. So we are saying that boss first come to the house. Okay, this is our SAP gateway system. Getting my point? So we are telling our SAP BTP that there is a server exists. So this is the server. And you need to give the username and password to log into the server. Okay, not to the business technology platform. This username and this password is the username and password to log in to this system, to this SAP gateway system. So with this information that you have provided here, our SAP business technology platform aware that there is a server, SAP gateway server in Hyderabad Amirpet. I'm just giving an example. Okay. And these are some additional parameters that the basis team will configure. You can ignore this. What I will do, I will download this and I will send it to you over through Drive. You can, through Drive or something, I will send it to you, or WhatsApp, I will send it to you. So you need to go to the same place, destinations place, and what you need to do is simply click on import destination and select the file that I am giving you. The moment you select the file that I am giving you, automatically this form will open. Now in the form, you will find the username as Rizwan only. You will find the username as Rizwan only, but the password field will automatically become blank. So SAP is very clever. Okay, so he know that, so, some destination will be imported by somebody else. So this password will be empty. What you need to do, you need to keep your username and your password that are shared by me. So actually, I'm not getting time to share you. I will send. So this is what you need to do. And after that, you need to click on the save button. Uh, okay, so it is not in the edit mode. So once you click on this edit mode, you will get the save button. For you, you will get the save button at the bottom. And then click on the check connection. So click on check connection. So you should get a green color tick mark saying that connection to this training system established. That means my business technology platform, okay, not business application studio, business technology platform is aware of this SAP gateway system now. That is step number 1, which is completed. Step number 1 is completed. Got the point? So make your BTP, not Business Application Studio, guys. I'm repeating once again. So now we made the business technology platform know about our SAP Gateway Server. Okay. Now my second question is, fine, BTP came to know, so this is BTP. So BTP came to know about your destination, that is your SAP Gateway system. But actually, who should know your destination? Your project should know about your destination, correct? Okay, so in this particular project, you need to call this OData service URL. Okay, the project should call the OData service URL. Okay, so this is what is the step number 2. The step number 2 is add the OData service. So when I'm saying add the OData service, adding the OData service is always the base OData service URL base. So what do you mean by base OData service URL? So this OData service URL is called as the base OData service URL. We add this OData service URL and whatever the extra part that is changing. So this always change, right? This always change based on the requirement. So this changing part will be written directly in the coding because that is not constant, but this is the fixed part. This is always fixed. So add the OData service URL to the project. Step number 2 can be done only after the step number 1. I repeat, the step number 2 can be done only after step number 1 because in the step number 2, to add the OData service base URL to the project, this base URL contains the domain name. The domain name means nothing but system. How your business application studio know about your server? Since we completed the step number 1, the BTP already know about your SAP gateway system. So your business application studio now at a position to add the OData service URL because this is already know. Okay, you already know the house. Now I can go to the hall. I can go to the balcony. I can go to anything. Okay, so now let us see how to add the OData service URL to the project. Actually, this has the two ways. One is at the time of creation of the project itself. So when you are creating the project, you might have observed the step number 1 is data connection, right? So let me just show you file new project from template. So let me just create some basic SAP Fiori application, click start. So basic, click next. Now we can see data source and service selection. So here itself, you can click on the drop down and select connect to a system now. Connect to a system. We need to connect to the SAP gateway system. So click on this connect to a system. Don't use connect to a OData service because this option we do not use for SAP systems. Okay. So connect to a system. Click on this. Now to which system I need to connect? I need to connect to this SAP gateway system because my OData service is inside. So click this drop down and you can see automatically our training system is present in this drop down. How this training system is present in this drop down? Because you added here. So my dear friends, whatever the destinations that you add in the business technology platform cockpit, so these destinations will be automatically pulled out into this drop down. So now I selected training. I selected training. So once you selected the training system, it will log in into this training system and it will ask you, boss, select the OData service to which you want to connect. So I want to connect to this OData service. Okay. So I connected to the training system. That means I connected to this box. Now tell me, inside this box, there are so many OData services. To which OData service you want me to connect? Now I will tell this ZB70. So you connect to this OData service. So if I click next and finish my wizard, this OData service will be automatically added to the project. This is the one way. This is the first way. But believe me, 99% of the times you will not use this option in the real time because when you are in the project, the front-end developer has so many things. That is, he need to do the screen designing, he need to do the validation. And to do the screen designing and validation, he does not require OData service, right? So by the time the backend developer create a OData service and give it to you, the manager will say, you don't keep idle. You start screen designing. Later on, he will give the OData service. At the time, you add it. Why are you stopping the work? So that is the reason, even though this option is there, mostly we do not use it. However, if the OData service is ready, by the time you go, yeah, use this option. That is the best option. Now, second way to add the OData service URL to the project is one. So we already created the project without adding the OData service to it. Now what you need to do is you need to right click on the manifest.json file and you need to use the option Open Service Manager. Click on this. And this Open Service Manager will give you an option Add Service. Click on this. Now again the same thing you need to repeat. Destination means to which system I need to connect. Now select our training system here in the drop down. I select it. Next, OData service. Manual means you need to type this entire, entire URL. So don't use this option. It is dangerous option. 90% of the people will do wrong here. Don't use manual. Click on fetch. Fetch means, boss, I will not type the OData service URL. You fetch all the OData service URL. I will select it. Yeah, so now it has fetched all the OData service URL. Now you type your OData service URL to which you want to connect. So select it from this suggestion, ZB70 EMP service. Okay, you can see that this is already automatically filled. Okay, see this is showing that inside the server, this OData service is present in this path /SAP/OPU/OData/SAP. I already mentioned about it in the last class. Okay. Now click on the add button. That's all. The OData service is successfully added to the server. Okay. Now, when you use this option to add the OData service URL to the project, the details will be added in this file called uifile.aml and uifile.local.aml. So in these two files. So let me open it and show you. Now we can see the uifile.aml file is updated. So with the backend stuff. So it is saying that, yeah, this is the backend server to which I need to connect. Okay, this is already updated in this uifile.aml, and you can also see the same in the uifile local.aml. So this is my uifile local.aml. In the backend section, you'll find the URL. Okay, so this is step number 2. Now, step number 3. Step number 3 is uh, pull the data, pull the records into the table using OData model binding. Now, what is this OData model binding? How can we pull the data from this service URL, OData service URL? So what is the OData service URL? This one, employee set / employee set. So this third step, this is the climax of this movie. So this climax of the movie will be explained in tomorrow's class in detail. Okay. So that's the interval for today. So let us meet in tomorrow's class with the climax of this story. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, you can leave for today.
Hi, Rizwan sir, Rahul here.
Yeah,
Hello.
Rahul.
In this our BTP project in BAS, we are having one folder called as test. What is it?
That is, if you want to do the testing of this application with some mock data, so at the time we use it. Actually, in real time now, we don't, even look at this folder also. We not even look at that folder.
Okay.
Because who wants to test the application with some dummy data? We always test the application with the original data. Because let me tell you, even though you test the data with the dummy, test the application with the dummy data, again your project manager will ask, did you test with the real data? This is the question that will come. Because nobody can take uh, the testing with the dummy data as final. If you test your application with the real data that is coming from the backend, then only they will approve that this is working. So then, what is the point in doing some testing with the test data? When you are not approving with my test data, then what is the point? I will do the real testing with the real data. Correct.
Yes.
So nobody care about that. So just ignore it. No problem.
Okay. I just wanted to know what it is. So
Yeah,
thanks.
I understand.
హలో హాయ్
Yeah.
రిజ్వాన్ ఇది మనకు కాన్ఫిగరేషన్స్ ఇక్కడ యూఐ ఫైల్ ఇచ్చారు కదా అవి వర్క్ అవ్వాలంటే మనము డ్రైవర్ నోట్ ప్యాడ్లో ఎస్టర్డే మీరు చూపించిన ఐపీ అడ్రస్ ఇవ్వాలా లేకపోతే అవసరం లేదు
See, Adi, meek only when you run your application, okay,
ఓకే
when
ఓకే
you run your application, sorry, when you run your OData service in the browser, okay,
ఓకే
so
ఓకే
here automatically when you select the OData service and click on test call from the browser option, when you click that button call from the browser option,
ఓకే
it automatically comes with this local domain name. Okay.
ఓకే ఓకే ఓకే
So if you want your OData service URL to work from this browser, okay, you want to do some testing from the browser. If you, uh, if you want your OData service URL to work with this domain name, then you add it in the host file. Otherwise, simply replace this s4hanaids.com with the IP address. That's all. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So this is not any public domain name, and that is the reason in the destination also we didn't keep the s4hanaids.com. Why I kept this IP address? Because s4hanaids.com is not a public domain, but in real time, since they use public domain names, so this will be replaced with public domain.
Okay.
Okay. So see, that is just a replacement. That's all. The domain name always replaced with the IP address. That's all. Okay. So if you want it, you do it. Otherwise, also no problem. Okay. Anyway, your business application studio is present in the cloud and it does not know about what is s4hanaids.com. Okay. Because it's not a public domain. See, my point is simple. If you want this service URL to run with this s4hanaids.com, go to host file and add it. No, I don't add it because it is asking admin rights, username and password of the admin. Simply keep this IP address. That's all. Okay. Okay, fine, guys. Then let's meet in tomorrow's class with the very interesting thing that is pulling the data from back into the front end SAP UI5 table. Have a nice day. Bye bye.